Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Bad Parenting Podcast. I'm Tamanna and we'll be talking about something most new parents often do. People often think that rape, murder, and theft are the worst crimes, but what people forget is that the real crime, and most often, is leaving your own kid behind. Today I speak with Chester and the Clown, who happened to find a lost, or should I say left behind child after his show.
Hey y'all, I'm Chester the Clown from the Ring-a-Ling Circus.
Hi Chester, I heard that you found a lost 8-year-old after your work one day. How did you find him? Was he crying, confused? Tell us how it went down.
Well, I didn't notice him at first, but later once everyone started making their way towards the exit, I saw him all to himself looking around frantically. I didn't see no parent with him, so I got worried. Once I approached him and tapped his shoulder, I guess the loneliness kind of got to him because he started bawling real hard. I tried asking questions like, what's wrong? Where's your parents? Are you alone? And so on, but the poor kid just kept on crying.
So what did you do?
I tried to make him laugh by squeezing my nose, making Goofy laugh, cracking some jokes, just to calm him down. But then he started crying even harder. So I kind of had no choice but, to knock him out and bring him to the back where all my other fellow circus peeps were. It's a lot more difficult than it sounds.
You knocked a child out?
Well, it wasn't entirely intentional. It just happened to happen. Just one of those things, Anyways, that's not the point. He eventually woke up later that night, and we asked him a couple of things. He told us his name was Twinkle and that he was 8 years old. He told us he couldn't find his dad at all.
Did you at least try to contact the father or bring Twinkle back home?
We wanted to. We really did. But the kid didn't remember any phone number or house address. Real unfortunate, especially because the kid kept crying. So I told him I'll drive him around until we recognized a neighborhood, and the whole circus crew decided to tag along. Turns out later that night, the father came back to look for the kid. Ha! Isn't that ironic?
Why yes, the irony indeed. Let's speak to the 25-year-old Ben Rosen, the father of Twinkle.
My father said, don't you worry, child. See, heaven's got a plan for you. Don't you worry now.
Hi Ben, how are you today?
I'm as good as can be expected.
Wow, that's good to hear. So tell us, how did it happen? Was it an accident?
I don't know any father who would leave their boy behind on purpose. I just want to teach the little sucker to have some fun at the circus and cheer him up from the recent divorce, but I guess he didn't have too much fun.
Oh, I see. Why the divorce if you don't mind?
Well, my ex-wife got a little crazy, and I got a little tired of putting up with it. And when my office hired a new receptionist, things got a little bit complicated. But that was all in the past, and, well, it stayed in the past until she happened to be at the circus when I was with my boy. I didn't plan on leaving my boy for him, but my more basic male instincts got a hold of me, and next thing I knew, I wasn't with my kid anymore.
So you're telling me you left your child for another woman?
I didn't really leave him, per se. I kind of just walked away, and he happened to walk in a different direction.
What did you do after you discovered that Twinkle was missing?
I was pretty much freaking out to the point where I was worried about having a heart attack. I knew that my ex-wife was probably going to murder me when I told her the news, so I did everything I could. I returned to what my crazy ex-wife would call the scene of the crime and retraced his footsteps from where I left him, but I had no luck. You'd be surprised how big the circus is until you're actually trying to look for your kid. Turns out the circus is pretty big, and no matter where I looked, my little boy was not there. So eventually I had to just give up, and I just left the circus. And that's when I had to call my ex-wife and tell her the bad news.
How'd she react?
She went crazy. I didn't even know there could be so much profanity from one person in such a short amount of time.
So now that you've experienced losing your kid, what are your thoughts on it?
I can say that it was not fun to not know where a kid is for a week. I'm not saying it's entirely my fault. Everybody makes mistakes, especially when you see your love affair pass by. But I did everything I could. I looked for him during the day of, the day after, and for the entire week. I went to his favorite places. I did everything I could, but he just wasn't there. So I'm not entirely feeling guilty, but it was not the highlight of my week to lose my child.
Thank you for your time and story. Please welcome our next guest, Twinkle's mother, Lily Clementine. Hello, Miss Clementine. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure to be here. Oh, and I'll prefer being called Lily.
Oh, my apologies. So, Lily, what is your opinion on leaving your own kid behind?
It is absolutely unacceptable. Just thinking of it infuriates me.
Could you tell us about your experience with that?
Why, of course. To all fathers out there, don't even think that for 1 second you can keep your eyes off your child. Just last week, my 8-year-old son Twinkle was lost due to the carelessness of my ex-husband.
How'd you feel when you were notified about Twinkle?
At first, I was furious. I mean, he's only 8 years old, for crying out loud. 8 years old! Eventually, my anger gave way to my fear of what would happen to my poor baby. The sinking feeling of not knowing is terrifying. It's a feeling I'll never forget. Ever since I heard the news, I will go all over the place just to find him. I was desperate. What kind of lunatic wants to lose his child? Clearly someone who doesn't give a bloody damn about his family.
Is this from a personal viewpoint?
No, not at all. What makes you say that? Generally, any man who leaves his wife and child behind for someone else is a criminal and is worthy of death.
Oh, I see. Now we will be speaking with 8-year-old Twinkle, who had just been recently found by his parents. Hello, Twinkle. I know that you are a little nervous right now, but could you care to tell us a little about your experience at the circus and how you felt?
I was so sad, and I couldn't find Daddy.
I'm sure that it must have been very scary for you. When did you realize that your dad was gone?
A scary clown tried to talk to me. I tried to hide behind Daddy, but he was gone. I tried to look for Mommy too, but I knew she was gone too.
How did you feel when you couldn't find them?
I was so lonely, and I thought Daddy was never coming back. I cried and kept crying because I thought Daddy would come if he heard me hurting, but he didn't. I thought that maybe he didn't want me anymore, just like he didn't want Mommy.
I'm sure that your dad loves you very much, Twinkle. How'd you feel when you saw your mom and dad come back?
I was so happy. I didn't like the clown. He was so big and scary. I don't ever want to be alone again.
And now we have my good friend Twidlina Thumper, the resident child psychiatrist at Higuchi Crowell Hospital.
Hi, Tamanna.
Alright, let's go right in. You've been listening the whole time, right? So what's your take on the situation? What do you think? Could there be any lasting effects to what happened to Twinkle or any other kids in his shoes?
In my professional opinion, no. Twinkle does not seem to exhibit any symptoms of the abandoned child syndrome, which affects children who have been abandoned either physically or emotionally. I will admit, though, that it seems that he was just this close to being diagnosed with it, as he did say he felt unwanted at one point. We're just lucky that he was retrieved in time.
Well, do you have any thoughts why any parent would leave their own child?
I do have some thoughts, actually. But keep in mind that there may be many explanations as to why one may accidentally abandon their child. I personally believe that the turbulence going on in Mr. Clementine's life may have caused him to try and repress any thoughts of responsibility towards Twinkle, causing him to completely forget about him, in order to relieve the stress of facing the responsibility of taking care of a child alone temporarily, without his wife to emotionally support him.
I see. So do you think that this requires legal action? Should he be punished?
Definitely not. Repressed thoughts are not known by the person to be repressed. He had no idea he was repressing the thoughts, and had he known, he would most certainly have risen to the challenge and faced the stressor head on.
And there you have it, ladies and gents. Thanks for tuning in with us on Twinkle Clementine's story.